There we go. And we started. Feedback. Is it me first?
Yeah, you sir.
Sophie, well done. Because I think it's a really nice. I think it's a really nice idea, and I think you've worked really well in terms of the writing. And my notes on this are going to be about. I think it can be more sophisticated in terms of how you take it, because I think you've got at the moment you've got a really, really nice emotion. You've got a really nice kind of idea for where it is, and I said a couple of these to you yesterday, and for me it's just that sense of taking it with the character to make it more sophisticated and maybe fit with the character more. I said to you yesterday, who are you talking to? Who you say you were talking to? The husband. So this is a married woman, yeah? So we're assuming she's older than you, married woman, and this is kind of slightly therefore that sense of, and this is when I said to you about sitting on the floor yesterday, and again, I said this to you yesterday, but you can kind of, I'm going to reiterate it, because you can either run with it or you can ignore me, but listen to me out about why and maybe why. Because I think, looking with her as a married woman and thinking of the concept, I really like the sound of it at the top. I think it's really, really well thought out about where you're placing these. But I think it's thinking about that sense, about that characterisation and who this married woman is and what sort of age, therefore, she is and how she does it. For me at the moment, there's a lot of walking side to side, and I don't know whether that's deliberate or that's just something what I'm doing because the way she... My feeling would be put a chair in there, and for a couple of reasons. One is I think don't fall on the floor, because I think as a married woman in the hospital, I get that people do. I'm not saying that people don't do claps on floor, but I don't know that she, with the character, would allow herself to do that. I think she would be more in control, and I think that's shown by kind of the decision making that she's going through, even though she's kind of been struck by an emotion. And I think also if you've got a chair or somewhere to sit, or more than somewhere to sit, like a waiting room of hospital, which we've kind of got this can see, it gives her a moment of contemplation, where there are moments of contemplation where she can sit and almost pause and stop going backwards and forwards. Because I do get that. I'm not saying don't cut it all out, because I think there are moments in there where she is, I don't know what to do, I'm pacing backwards and forwards. But it becomes a little bit like a tiger in a cage at a zoo. Do you know what I mean? Who kind of, if you ever been to see, have you seen tigers in zoos? God bless the poor thing. They just wander up and down like out on the outside of the fence. I think partly when I'm there, I have the look on the face to kind of go, if I could get out, I could eat that fat bloke. But usually, but there's that sense of wandering up and down that becomes, in the end, it is that sense of caging. But I think she needs that kind of, slight change. And then I think what it would do then, by seeing, because you're sat now, it would give you a chance to play with your physicality, your characterisation a little bit more, and maybe use gesture a little bit more. Because having sat there, you've then got, when you're walking, your kind of hands are engaged with walking. There's a little bit less what you do. Whereas you sat, it gives us a chance to focus on you and look at you for a minute and look at your face. Whereas if I'm like this, side to side a lot of the time, I just see the side of your face. And I really want to see, I want a bit of time to study that character and go, what's the trauma, what is the trauma, and see you kind of process it, and see your eyes process it, and see your body process it, and see where the nerves are that, do you know what I mean, maybe kind of like, you know, the father that was, the ring that was passed down from your father is kind of like, do you know what I mean, and I want to wring his neck, do you know what I mean, obviously with those kind of gestural things. So for me that's kind of like, because I think it's a really nice idea. I think it's really nicely written. I think the stuff that you cover is nice in there. It's just taking up to that sophistication of, okay, let's really look at the character, let's really look at the depth of the character and the layers of the character, and maybe kind of then, now you can throw everything I've suggested out, stick with what you want. It's just me kind of thinking, okay, that's what I as a member and audience might like to see more of, to see the depth of that, to see the depth and the feeling of the character that's there. And I think that would therefore help with the flow. There's a really quick change after It Still Hurts, at the beginning, the anxiety, and then you kind of go, I think it still hurts, and you drop out of that, I'm really, really well, oh, it still hurts. And it's a kind of an abrupt change. And I think it's that sense of flow for the character that I want to see. But I think that's what I want to see, because I think it's got so much really, really nice potential to take it onto the next level of what age is she, that she's not you. You know what I mean? She's 17, 18-year-old. to 18 yet? 18. 8-year-old Sophie, but she's slightly older. You know what I mean? Slightly older again. That challenge to do, and how you kind of do and engage that. And have you observed any older women? One of those questions. Do you stare at older women in the streets? But I think it's one of those things. I'm not saying go like a ghoul and sit outside hospitals and watch people, but it is just that sense of watching a range of older women. It sounds awful. In circumstances where they may be stressed. And that could be anywhere. Do you know what I mean? It could be kind of, you know, it is. Yeah, it could. It's like where your mum is at school. You know, I mean, there's no end of teachers. You could just pop in and watch the teachers and see what the teachers like dealing with the kids and seeing what they're like stressed-wise and how they are physical. Do you know what I mean? And what they do and the looks that they do, which is just that sense of like. Forgive me, I'm not saying please stalk older women, but you get my sense about that would be worth doing. Please do not get arrested for filming older women out on the street and then blaming it on me. That's on camera that I said don't stalk older women.
Yeah, just really want to stress that last part.
Yeah.
Like, don't get confused by some of the feedback we've given and go, was it stalk old women or
There you go, Willy Wonka to older women stalking, Ben. Chris. You.
He knows. Okay. Sophie, you're the only person to use sound cues, and I think that's a great choice. It really does add to the atmosphere. Again, that's not something you tacked on at the end. That was something that's been through your creative process throughout, which shows your good planning and your ability to be working on this practically and written as you've gone through it. And you really should be commended for that. I think it's written really nicely. You know, that's not an easy situation to put yourself in terms of getting into that mindset of writing it, and I think it comes off nicely. I've got a couple of things that I think you could continue to improve on, and I want to stress that that's continue to improve on, not fix, improve on. So the first thing that I've got is similar to kind of what Stan was saying in terms of that switch. I would like you to just consider how you transition between those different, I'm going to call them states, but it's also sort of sections in what she's talking about. Having that thought process, letting us see you go from that immediate panic to then delving a little bit back into her backstory. Makes it sound too crude, but just her backstory and her history with her father. And whilst I am in agreement with Stan in terms of the floor and maybe a chair instead, also you have that transition again when you're there, and just thinking about how you kind of showcase that and have that pause to reflect before going into it, so it feels like a nice gradual thing. It will also, from an audience perspective, mean that we focus it entirely on you. We'll be waiting with bated breath to see what you're going to say next, which just from a kind of winning from a monologue point of view will have us on your side immediately, because we're like, the other thing I've got is I'd like to see you see the door. So I'd like you to consider kind of how you're using the space, because you gesture to the door kind of being over in that direction. Unless I completely just... Yeah? Phew. Glad to know I watched it properly. But you also enter on from that side of the stage, which from an immediate thing is kind of not sure where it is in regards to each other. But I think if you've also got that door ever present there, and you've got that idea of exactly where it is, you can let that pressure, that fear of going in and confronting your father, which you're unable to say immediately, dying, I think that will further enforce your performance and will probably give maybe a little bit more precision and purpose to your movement. Because my final thing is I do want you to consider how you're utilising the space, and that kind of goes with what Stan was saying in terms of the pacing back and forth. But basically what you should take away from that is we want more Sophie. So when you're pacing, we only get half, and we don't do 50%, we do 100. So we want to see more of kind of what's going on within those stages. So when you watch it back, I just want you to look at that and consider where are those elements where it is kind of like a metronome, and then we're missing some of the wonderful things that you've written and are performing, and when can you start to think about placing yourself or how you're utilising it. And I think knowing exactly where that door is, exactly where you're coming in, will also help you in sort of working out the logic of the room. But Sophie, it's really nice, and you know, you always hope this, but it's come on leaps and bounds from the last time you showed me, and that's just really pleasing to see. It is evidence of that continual growth, and I think you'll agree with this as well. I'm very excited to see where you're going to take it in the next stage of development.
The only thing I would add to that is in terms of the blocking the entrance and exit, I feel you need to go off the opposite way. So if the door's over that way, I feel you need to go, and it's that I'm walking away from, rather than an angle from. Does that make sense? So it may mean that you need to think about exiting this way, whether when we do the evening show that's possible, or maybe that way.
Out of the building.
But just, you know what I mean? So it is that literally out of the building going, because that really kind of hammers it home. And the second thing I would say is, this is why I keep badgering you, because you can write something brilliant like that and perform like that, and that's one of the strongest pieces you've done of your 2 years here, and that's why I kind of go, I know Sophie, you can do this, and you should be really, really pleased with that. I mean, it's great, really, really good. Do you know what I mean? And that's what we know you're capable of. So when I've been on your case for the last 6 months, that's because I know that's what's possible, and you should know what's possible. That kind of to me says, Sophie, this is really stepping up to the next level, and you are showing you can do it, which is great.
Well done, Sophie.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I'll post the feedback. You've got it. You can look at.
Please, can you send your race?